Okay, before we move on to the testing, let's go over some features of the Nitro Piston short stroke. Two very important ones to start with. First of all, it has a shrouded barrel. And what this is a shroud fitted over the rifle barrel inside. And what that does is keep your shots very, very quiet. This is probably the quietest off-the-shelf airgun this reporter has ever experienced. Now, secondly, what is a Nitro Piston? That's basically a gas ram. This is a proprietary design from Crosman, and they're very similar to the struts that hold up the back door on a minivan. And this gives you some very important advantages over a metal spring. There's no torque when it's fired. There's no metal spring fatigue. It can be cocked for extended periods, although I don't suggest that. If you are hunting, you can cock this, go into the woods and stalk your prey, and you won't alert them by cocking your rifle. It increases your stealth. Also, it's not affected by weather, it's not affected by cold or heat, and it gives a very smooth firing cycle. It feels like a tuned rifle right out of the box. Now you'll notice here also, there's no open sights, but the Nitro Piston comes with a center point 3 to 9 by 40 scope. And that's ready to be mounted on this. And I think this is a perfect scope for this rifle. It's sized just right, it's fairly lightweight, and I think proportionally it works. So that's good, you don't have to worry about searching for the proper scope. This one will work fine for you. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is some chrony testing, then we'll move on to the accuracy testing, trigger testing, sound testing, and we'll wrap up the show. Before we move on to the chrony testing, let me show you something else about the Nitro Piston short stroke, and that's the stock. This is made from synthetic material. There's no wood in here. And this is the carbon fiber look. They also have a digital camo version of this, which is kind of a tan and green look to it. And it's based on the military's digital camo design. Also has a rubberized cheek rest here and a ventilated rubber butt pad. Okay, our first pellet over the chrony is going to be the JSB Jumbo Exact Express. These are a 14.3 grain pellet. Let's see how it does. So what's the cocking effort of the Nitro Piston short stroke? Well, we're going to measure that for you right after the chrony testing. I learned a neat trick from Tom Gaylord, and that's to use a bathroom scale to help measure the cocking effort of break barrel air rifles and side lever air rifles for that matter. And we'll get to that in just a moment. A good habit to get into when you're using a non-automatic safety that's located in the trigger guard is to put it back on safe after each shot. And maybe after 50, 60, 70, 100,000 rounds, or however long it takes you to learn, you'll find that it's on safe every time you cock it and return to the shooting position. It's a good habit to learn. Do it. Okay, here's my results with the .22 caliber Nitro Piston short stroke using the JSB Jumbo Express 16 grain pellets. Looks like our average was 654 feet per second. Our fastest was 660. Our slowest, 648. The extreme spread, 11.9, let's say 12 feet per second. And our standard deviation was 3.3 feet per second between each of the 10 shots. Based on our average of 654 feet per second, that gives us 15.2 foot-pounds of energy. That's plenty for small game hunting. All right, let's move on and do some accuracy testing. And for that, we're going to use the same pellet, the JSB Jumbo Expresses. Let's go see how we do. I almost forgot I was going to show you how to measure the cocking effort of break barrel air rifles. I've got my digital scale here. Now this is just a cheapo digital bathroom scale. And I have a board on top of it, and that's to spread the weight evenly over the surface of the scale. Now scales are meant for you to stand on, and if I were to put the barrel just on the scale itself, it's not going to measure it. But I found that this helps. First thing we're going to do is break it open, just like that. Now turn it upside down, and very carefully put weight on it until it breaks open. All right, it looks like we got about 26 pounds of effort to cock the Nitro Piston short stroke. And that tells me you can cock this thing all day long and not worry about getting one big gorilla arm or something like that. Let's move on to the accuracy testing. All right, it looks like we did pretty good here with our JSB Jumbo Express pellets. You know, I've had people come to me and say, Paul, I can do much better with that rifle or this rifle or that pistol or whatever. Good. I want you to be better than me. Go out and practice. Shoot a lot of pellets. Shoot thousands of them and practice, practice, practice. But our little group here is pretty respectable. It fits within a dime at 20 meters. And of course, this is bench rested. I'm not a braggart. But this rifle is very, very accurate. And if you do your part, you're going to get some great things out of this rifle. Look at that. Pretty good. I've gotten quite a few emails asking me to use these Predator Polymag pellets. These are a polymer-tipped pellet. And I do use these, but I don't use them often for reviews. These shoot well out of many air guns, and it happens to do pretty good in the Nitro Piston short stroke. And I'll show you that result in a moment. These are really neat. It's a hollow point and a polymer-tipped pointed pellet. This is very good for hunting game that have a tough, thick skin, like crows or those big, fat winter squirrels. If you want to break through that fat and that hide, these are very good for that. Here's what we did. Not too bad. I've got one that flew off to the left over here, but overall, I've been shooting these Predator pellets with the Nitro Piston for quite some time now, and it does pretty good. Do your part, you'll do even better. Like I said, I want you to do better. The Nitro Piston short stroke does have a 2-stage trigger, and it's adjustable. Just follow the manual, and you can get this trigger to your liking. I'm going to go ahead and use my Lyman trigger gauge here and see what our results are. Remember, I haven't changed any of the settings on this rifle. This is stock. But if I were to continue using this rifle, I'd probably go ahead and adjust the trigger. Ooh, 6 pounds, 4 ounces. That's a little bit heavy. 5 pounds, 11 ounces. 5 pounds, 5 ounces. 5 pounds, 12 ounces. 4 pounds, 15 ounces. Say about 5 pounds there. All right, well, it's a little bit on the high end. Looks like our average was 5 pounds, 4 ounces. But like I said, you can adjust this trigger, get it a little bit lighter. I've seen guys getting this down to 3 or less pounds. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the sound testing, which should be very interesting for the Nitro Piston short stroke because it's billed as a very quiet air gun. I can attest to that. Let's see how it does. Now, when Crosman was developing the Nitro Piston short stroke, they did some very scientific testing with the loudness of it. They have special rooms and very expensive equipment that measures sound pressure. This is just an off-the-shelf sound pressure meter. I'm sure the difference is going to be quite dramatic from what they did in their scientific test. But let's go ahead and see what the results are. Wow, 66.5 decibels. That is way lower than a whisper. A whisper, pun intended. The Crosman Nitro Piston short stroke is a real winner in my book. When I first took this out of the box, I turned around, it was gone. I had people in the studio wanting to shoot it right away, and since then I haven't been able to find it. I'm lucky I found it for the review here. I think Crosman has a real winner. It's made in the USA. It's got power, it's got accuracy, it has the Nitro Piston, it's quiet, it's backyard and neighbor friendly. What more can you ask in a break barrel air rifle?